Hello lovelies, I am still sick, I apologize, but I can use my hand more. I managed to do somewhat with my hair, wow, volume, amazing. So you're here on a Tuesday. Without any further ado, we are getting into a deep topic today. This is carrying on from last week's episode, I guess you'd call it that. We're talking about the children that go on reality TV shows, daytime TV, whatever you want to call it, and also vlog channels as well. So we're getting into a lot of tea, a lot of dark topics. There are many trigger warnings, and I will have timestamps along with them to make sure that you know what to look out for. But we are dealing with a very heavy topic today. So if you cannot handle any of this very long list of triggers, I'll see you next week. You don't need to traumatize yourself anymore for the sake of a view on my video. I understand that this stuff is hard to watch. So, all of my sources are in the description along with everything on my face. I decided to do a happy, sunshine, childish look on my face today just because this topic was dark and I wanted to have something that would definitely bring me joy, and this look does. So everything I use is cruelty-free, vegan, and not owned by parent companies that test on animals. Without any further ado, let's jump straight into it. There's never-ending cops, so if you can hear them, I apologize. If my voice is funny, I also apologize. I'm still getting better. Why is it that I keep on saying that children cannot consent? Legally, a child's brain is not developed enough to be able to consent to any sort of sexual activity. They cannot provide consent to medical procedures. You know, how you have to have your parent or guardian sign off for you. Even when they commit a crime, they are tried as a juvenile or go to child's court, that sort of stuff. And of course, one other thing, a person's brain doesn't fully develop until they are 25. So when I say a child's brain isn't fully developed enough to understand the full gravity of the situations that they're in, I actually genuinely mean it. Not only is the law on our side, but so is science. I'm honestly pretty hardline about this. Whilst I do honestly believe it's good to get the idea of consent into kids' brains, would you like to do X? Would you like to see Y? Can I do this? Do you want to eat that? It's good to get in the kids' brains, the concept of consent, same as letting them know, well, does Billy want to play that game? What does Billy want to do? The whole idea of consent and taking into consideration other kids' feelings, and then also them being able to recognize their own feelings of do you feel comfortable doing this? Do you want to have a hug from your aunt or uncle? If you don't want to have a hug, that's absolutely fine. I think that it's really important to actually instill this stuff in kids from a young age. And I do see parents doing that, and I love that fact. I don't think that they used to do it. I think it's something that has definitely been a learned thing, shall we say. Children do not fully understand exactly what they're being exposed to, whether it's them in real life, whether it's them on TV, whether it's them with their pictures being shared by their parents or whatever. They don't fully understand the concept of permanency, if that makes sense. They don't really get the fact that it is out there forever. Whatever their parents put online, whatever they're showing in the TV show, that is there forever. You think it can fade, but it can't. And they also do not know or realize the fact that whatever their parents are actually sharing online, predators can actually easily map and create accounts of exactly where that child goes at all times, what they normally wear, their routines, everything. They don't realize that, and I don't think a lot of parents quite realize that as well either, let alone the ones that actually go on TV and advertise all of this stuff too, because they tend to show a lot more intimate details, shall we say. Suffering, endless suffering. Oh, I want to watch 500 Days of Summer now. So first off, let's look at Alyson Stoner and other child stars. So I'm hoping that all of you have actually seen Alyson Stoner's video. I will link it down below if you haven't, because it's all about her experience of being a child star and what she was exposed to and what she was dealing with. And also Tiffany Fergus did a really good video about family vloggers, and I agree with all of her points on that as well. More and more stories keep on coming out about the horrors that child stars must endure in the entertainment industry, and of course the long-lasting impacts of that, having others literally watch you grow up and judge you whilst you're doing that. So we had Elsie Leslie was the first ever child star, at least according to the internet. Then we have people like Judy Garland, Shirley Temple. So then we even go all the way up to Macaulay Culkin, Mara Wilson, who had to quit because of the stuff that was... Yep. Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, you cannot say it the other way around. Oh my gosh, I wrote it the other way around and I was like, this feels weird. And then we've got people like Brooke Shields, who acted when she was 12 as a child prostitute and even appeared fully unclothed in the movie Pretty Baby. Like, they each have a story to tell, and sadly, like, a lot of the world has actually watched their own stories unfold and be told, because we've got tabloids, we've got news, we've got everyone that is like really interested in children growing up who aren't their own children. And then of course there's a classic when people are like, oh well, they were way cuter when they were younger. I know that this definitely happened to people like Lizzie McGuire, oh my gosh, Hilary Duff, sorry. But people went, oh, her face just got longer as she got older. And it's like, yeah, faces change as you get older. Oh my god. Cat fluff. Cat fluff alert. Oh, So there's all of this stuff happening in the public eye their whole lives. And it's very hard to try and, you know, get away from it. Escape. Have some sort of normalcy. And that's something that you'll see as a common thread. However, I do just want to highlight the fact that these are the people with privilege and money. These are the ones who typically are able to actually have money to set themselves up at least a little bit for life, pay for the therapy that they'll definitely need, and then also like have a bit of protection around them because they've got like that privilege of connections. The regular kids that go on these shows do not have that. So let's just talk about the regular kids that go on these shows, shall we? Disobedient kids, nightmares from hell, the ones that you just can't control. Where else do you take them? Like, what are you meant to do? I have no idea how this is going to work out, so we're all just experimenting together. So where are their parents actually going to take them? To therapy? Like, we established in last week's video that they can't afford to do that. These shows are sold to you as being like a good thing to take your kids to straighten them out. And of course, like, you care as a parent. You care enough to get validated and have someone else parent your child whilst humiliating and traumatizing them at the same time. That is how much you care. There are so many episodes of kids behaving badly, or quote unquote, my teen is out of control, when the root cause more often than not is actually an issue within the home itself. Now honestly, I have genuinely hated watching these shows because you can see the children's pain or them trying to hide that and mask that and act out, and it's just been genuinely painful watching this stuff and just having to clip the recordings of it. And I'm blanking all of their faces. I'm going to a lot of extra effort. This will take hours and hours and hours to edit because I want to make sure that no child suffers from me sharing their faces on this. A child that actually goes on these shows, it can be a huge issue for them, not only for their families but also just think about socially. Like, these kids have to go to school, and a lot of it depends on how things are obviously edited. Like, who is going to stop them from making the most salacious edits they actually can? And then you think about it, then they have to go to school and all of the kids know about it. They've probably recorded at the school, and so all of their secrets are out in the open. And it's like the whole saying of like, kids can be so mean. Yeah, kids are still developing. They do not all know like social cues, and especially if children are going through trauma, then that will even be more screwed up for them, and possibly for even longer as well. They won't know what to do in those situations. So you've got kids that are bullying other kids, and then you've got this child that's just been openly traumatized on TV going back to school, having these kids bully the hell out of them. What do they expect is going to change for these kids in a positive way? I see nothing positive coming out of these shows. The problem is, like, even when parents do get shown up on these shows, they act in a way where it's like very pig-headed. They go on the shows to be validated as opposed to be criticized. They go on the shows for the kids to get straightened out, not necessarily a reflection on themselves. This step parent was incredibly defensive. I do understand it's a natural human reaction to be defensive about this stuff, but incredibly defensive. Just because you go on this show doesn't actually mean that the solution will actually happen, because a lot of the time, like I said, the issues are in the home itself. And if the parents are just pushing it onto the kids as to why the kids are acting out and doing the things that they shouldn't be doing, like taking drugs, hanging out with the wrong crowd or whatever, the root cause is normally at the home. And if they're unwilling to listen or change or anything, nothing's going to change, and it will actually be a worse situation for the child. And when the child tries to speak up and say, hey, all of these people said this against you and I'm actually doing okay, I'm just struggling, what do you think's going to happen to that kid that was already like getting beaten up? Like, so I'm not actually going to go too heavily into my own trauma. I will just give you like clip notes here. Trigger warning, let me just check my list for trigger warnings. Eating disorders, stalking, depression, self-harm and suicide. So trigger warnings, please go to this time frame if you cannot handle this. I was scared to eat for many years for fear of being poisoned, because I was told that one side of my family was trying to kill me, and a lot of this happened over like private letters, and just, yeah. I was told that I was going to be saved, but then I got quote unquote abandoned, aka the kidnapping attempts didn't actually work, the stalking like led to nothing, restraint orders, all of this other stuff. All of that, along with many other things in my childhood, left me pretty screwed up for a long time, especially because it went on for so many years. Of course, like, the practical story is the fact that it was an incredibly toxic divorce with bad things happening before, during and after, and none of that is my story to tell, so I'm not going to tell it. And I'm also not telling you what happened to protect the person that did all of this stuff, because they're still a millionaire and living a great life whilst we suffered terribly. I'm just putting it out there that all of that left me in a pretty screwed up state, and I do not want to share the rest of the story because it's not my story to tell. So all of this trauma, along with like all of the sickness and hospitalizations and all of this other stuff I had to go through, led me to get really, really sick, be very irrational, really, really emotional, very depressed. And then the self-harm started, and then from the age of like 10 I was suicidal, and that carried on until I was 22. The mental breakdowns that I was going through as a child, because I went through a stage where I forgot how to read. I was being considered for actually having to go into remedial classes because I couldn't function as a person anymore. And along with all of that, I was bullied through most of my school as well. So it's like, you take all of that and then you add in this going live in front of many other people, having cameras on you, documenting your trauma, whether it is on reality TV or vlogging or just people posting and sharing like kid updates. Like, I cannot imagine going through that when I was so screwed up, and it took many years of therapy to get through that for me myself. So it's like, this is just one person's story. This is why I'm raising this up to you, because like, if I was dealing with that along with all of this other stuff, everyone's got different stories, everyone has different trauma that they go through, and I'm like, going through that and then having it broadcast, can you imagine what that would be like? Like, if that had happened, my attempts would have probably been successful. And this is why I also raise all the time why I say that therapy is an essential service and should be available to all. And again, why I like to raise to you that you should be fighting for this when it comes to your political activism too. It is critical for anyone from any walk of life to be able to get help and not have it tied to like some sort of religious thing. Like, everyone should be able to access proper, adequate mental health care. I haven't used this, so it's the perfect time to try and use something for the first time on camera, right? Whoa. That's some sort of SFX stuff. So I also mentioned in last week's video that these shows tend to get filmed at the worst time, right? Where they are no longer able to control the kid. Yes, like I mentioned before, sometimes reflection is brought back on the parents. So I do just want to point out here that parents typically learn from their own parents, and this is how toxic traits obviously get like passed down. And then you've also got the fact that the literature on how to parent changes too. So it's like, well, what are people meant to do? Like, I am cutting the parents a lot of slack here because I think that it's important to just like recognize that whilst they may be trying their best, like, it can still hurt the kids, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're always trying to harm them, if that makes sense. So should people who want to be parents have all of their emotional traumas like dealt with before bringing life into this world? I would say yes. And should there be more resources available to parents at all stages of parenthood, not just prior and just as the baby is born? I would also say yes. What I'm saying is, like, things are very, very complicated, things are multifaceted. I'm not just trying to put all of the blame on the parents in this situation. I'm saying that there are systemic issues at play which cause a lot of these issues as well. Regular kids that go on these shows get quote unquote held accountable when they're still learning boundaries, when they're still learning social cues. And like I mentioned before, kids that have actually gone through trauma, like, they don't fully understand the repercussions as well. If you have a good eyeliner brush recommendation, please tell me, because that one is clearly terrible. Social cues are very, very hard for children to learn when you're growing up in a household of constant yelling or quiet, dangerous hostility. How are you meant to know what social cues to pick up on when you're still, like I said, developing and learning, when you're raised in like that sort of situation? Because a lot of these households, from the kids where they come from, it doesn't exactly feel like a healthy environment a lot of the time, shall we say. And then of course a lot of the time they're just left like abandoned after the show, after like the whiz bang of entertainment is done. But then the worst get to go off to the ranch, which we'll talk about just after the next section. The teen pregnancy obsession. Girls being reprimanded for older men's wrongdoings is a huge issue on these shows. The judgment is worse than me on my most spiteful days, and that is the girls are referred to as hoochie mamas, as sluts, put in the most derogatory ways. But then of course, like, these girls don't look underage though, do they? Wink wink. Girls who lie about their age or who don't have enough adequate sex education, which is very rife in America, as a lot of people are aware of. They're the ones that get mocked, as they are the ones that are ruining their lives by the fact that they got pregnant. They are the ones that are in the wrong, and it's like, rarely is ever any reflection put on that the men, the ones that got them pregnant, the ones that have taken advantage of the fact that their brain is still developing because they cannot actually consent at that age. It's like, where is the education for men, and where is the focus of this? Just berating kids and getting them to come out when they're dressed slutty, like, just, who is this show really for? Feels a bit pedo-baity. And also just the fact that these are like the most viewed clips on YouTube makes me feel extra icky. There is a lot of victim blaming of like, what were you wearing? Why were you drinking? Why did you lie about your age? Well, you're the one that led him on. Well, I guess you can't get married now. Like, it's just the fact that these are some of the most common stories about the fact that kids are dressing like too adult. And it's like, well, who's the one that's sexualizing them here? Is it the adults that are sexualizing them? Because I kind of think it is. Like, it's natural for kids to want to like explore their sexuality, to like test boundaries. That is just what kids do and teenagers do. It's the fact that we've got predatory older people taking advantage of that. That's where the problem really lies. Also, the fact that we don't have easy accessible healthcare for them and adequate sex education, because abstinence teaching does not work. It doesn't help with anyone, like reducing STDs. It actually just spreads misinformation, because kids will learn from things like porn and from what they hear from their friends. That is not helpful. Like, the amount of kids that are getting educated through porn is actually quite a big issue, which Anna Rakana has covered herself. The thing is that we need to have robust, open communication and great platforms for educating children from appropriate ages. I'm on about like, because in the UK, like, kids are still being sexually active when they're just hitting 10 and 11, or at least sexually curious. You need to start tackling all of these big issues when you're young, and abstinence teaching doesn't help that. You need to have easy access to Planned Parenthood. You need to have quality, good, continued education for all walks of life, for all orientations, and for all genders. Like, without having like this inclusive, helpful view, you're just going to keep on getting these terrifying stats that we've been getting. We need to talk about the ranch. Off to the ranch. Like, this is just, it's so memeable. Everyone knows about it, but it's been recently that more and more stories have come out and covering like the massive issues with the ranch. And a lot of this is going to be very Dr. Phil focused that I'm talking about, because obviously the most infamous one, except for the fact that we need to also realize the fact that conversion therapy camps are still very much a thing. They may not get talked about as much, but they are still a thing, and we need to think about all of these camps and question all of them. Because the thing is that they almost operate like outside of the law. I just need to have a trigger warning here. Eating disorders, kidnapping, murder, self-harm, abuse, and Please go to this timestamp if you cannot handle any of those topics. So Danielle Bregoli, or Bad Baby, whatever you want to call her, she's come out with a video like last year, I think it was, about the issues at Turnabout Ranch, except for the fact that Turnabout Ranch isn't the only one of these that is operating around the place. There are many others of them around the US. I believe Turnabout Ranch in particular has multiple cases against them for kidnapping, murder, self-harm, and then we also need to address the fact that they've got handlers that come out in the middle of the night to just come and take the child away. Hey, we want you to help you change, so we're just gonna kidnap you, cause you like probably one of your nightmares coming to life. Your parents aren't around, your parents actually did this to you. Wow, imagine that. Imagine having to try and heal from that trauma. The fact that parents think that they're doing the right thing by sending their kids to these ranches where you do not get accurate information in or out of them. You don't have any way of recording what's actually happening. You have like your cell phone taken off you. You are effectively getting broken like a horse. So you know how horses like get beaten and their spirits and instincts are broken over multiple months. The same thing happens to these kids effectively, and I think that both are abhorrent. Anytime I see a horse being ridden by someone, I'm just reminded of the fact that that horse has gone through horrendous trauma. So if you actually want further watching about these ranches and issues about them, Illuminati has got some videos on it, because I'm on about like the bigger issues here, but the biggest issue is the fact that these ranches are made to appear as if they are doing good things and that parents believe that they're doing the right thing. And I'm sorry, if you're starving children, making them freeze, making them do hard manual labor with like little to no food, little to no clothing, getting stripped naked, having people that are convicted of abuse looking after them, like what the actual hell? So of course, like everyone will have probably seen Paris Hilton's video on this as well. Sending your kids off somewhere to get fixed is one of the most screwed up things. It's the same way that people send their kids to like boarding school to straighten them out and to military school to straighten them out. At least at those establishments, you've got like some communication in and out. But when it comes to the ranches, it's like locked down. You get nothing in and out. And the parents are told from the people running these ranches that, oh yes, they're doing great, they actually want to stay here for longer, please give us even more of your money, because these places are also not cheap. It's just one of the many reasons that you shouldn't support Dr. Phil. Okay, I'm gonna put my lashes on and blow my nose again, and I'll be back. We should probably talk about my feelings about kids on the internet, because I think you can probably tell where this video is going. Subtle, obviously, as I always am. I still feel like there's a lot of reasons why I think it's unsafe for parents to be putting their kids out on the internet on open social media platforms. I'm not saying that you can't have like your kid facing away from the camera or whatever, like I'm not saying any of that, because I think that that's like a good way to kind of like include them if you have an open platform. If you have a closed platform and everything is on like a hard lockdown, like with your Facebook, Insta, whatever it is, if you have a very hard lockdown, I think that that too can be okay, absolutely. But if you have an open platform, this is where I get nightmares. Because the thing is that other people are gathering information on your child. It is easy for them to find out their whereabouts with everything, where they like to play, where they go to school, where you live, the clothes that they wear, their schedule, literally everything. Like, if you want a bit of a rabbit hole to go down, Shia LaBeouf, like, I know he's cancelled and everything, I know I mentioned him in this video up here, but the thing is, like, he was posting videos of, like, he was posting, like, pictures and videos of, like, some sort of, like, giveaways, and he was finding that people could find out everywhere that it was. So what he did was he took a picture of a flagpole with just, like, the sky and the flag flying. People found it. People can find everything even with no landmarks around them. So when I am saying to you, watch the hell out, I genuinely mean it. If people realize just how much like people can find out about them, they would be sharing a hell of a lot less, is what I'm saying. Now look, I am not a parent, I will never be a parent, I don't know what it's like to want to share like your child's life with others, but the thing is that one, the safety is a huge issue, and 2, their mental health is a huge issue. We do not know the psychological effects of what's going to happen to these kids of having their whole life shared before they realize it. So when they're like 15, 16 and they're like, why are there videos of me having a temper tantrum in the middle of Costco? Why are you sharing pictures of me in a bath with my cousin? Why are you sharing like me potty training? Why are you sharing how many times I wet the bed? We do not know how this will impact these kids going forward. And so that's why I'm just like I said, you know about like some of my psychological traumas that took me years to get over. We do not know the psychological traumas that the current generations are going to be going through, like Gen Z, and I don't know what to call the generation after that. Is it Doomers? Like, I don't know what this is going to be like for them psychologically, and I worry the hell out of like that whole situation. What may seem like funny instances to parents may actually be the most traumatic times of like that kid's life. Like, I've definitely had that happen to me. Kids cannot consent. We established this at the start. The articles are down below. When they want to have their own social media and start sharing things, if they're doing it, like I said, in a private way, and they're the ones that are doing it of their own volition, sharing what they want, the main thing that I want you to take away from this, if you're giving them that ability or whatever, like, I'm not a parent, I don't know the effects of it, I don't know the massive impacts of it, but what I'm saying is, like, one of the biggest things, I really do recommend you make sure you do, not only for yourself but for the children as well that are posting, do not share where you are when you are there. Jumble it up, do whatever you need, just do not share where you're there when you're there. Not only because of like the security of your house, because people have probably been able to track down where you live, but also just for the safety of like you. You do not know the stalkers, you do not know the people that could potentially be following you. And also, do not share pictures of other people's kids. I've only realized this in recent years, but now I'm like, what the hell? Like, the parents apparently have like the consent to be able to give to you, but you need to first off ask them, hey, is it okay if I share this on my own social media platform? Like, even if it's family members, don't go sharing things unless you've got the absolute clearance of the parents. And if you've been listening at all, just don't. Like, it's lovely to be able to share those experiences with just your family and have just that nice little moment that is off social media. Please do not go sharing pictures or videos or whatever of other people's kids. Like, that's probably one of the biggest things as well. Now that my rant is over, let's have a look at solutions, because I like to try and fix things. So there are actually some NGOs in place to help kids, but they typically are in the form of like the entertainment industry. A Minor Consideration is one of them that I do recommend you check out if you or anyone you know is actually in like the starlight and the spotlight. I'll have that linked, along with like other resources for kids that are going through trauma. Like, I'll have all of that stuff linked down below as well. So we absolutely need to have more support for those in social media space, because this is a very, very new space. Now, Smoky Glow has actually got a video on this just here down below as well. Like, there's a lot that needs to happen in the YouTube space, in the TikTok space, in the Instagram space, Facebook, every social media platform. I don't even know if there's parenting things on Twitch, but there probably is. Like, if I thought of it, there probably is. The main issue is the fact that there's no legal definitions in place to help these children, nor their privacy, nor making sure that they can actually keep their money, because laws were put in place, like thanks to people like Shirley Temple, for children, you know, like when they are actually doing like these big movies and whatever. But what about if you're vlogging and then you're just like, oh well, I'm just filming them when they're at home, so technically they're not in a workspace. What constitutes a workspace? Like, if you're making money off it, if you're working on something and then it's earning revenue, I would count that as being work. And so the kids should actually be treated as if they're employees and have a particular cut of like your revenue or whatever. You can say whatever you want about people being like, oh well, you know, they've got a nice house because of it. And I'm like, kids can't consent. This whole like move fast and break things mentality is not really great for humans. I'm just pointing that out, Zuckerberg. Again, I just want to reiterate, like I did in the last video, what you watch and give attention to, it gives it more power. So watching family vlogs, watching these shows that have the kids come on them and their trauma is just exposed for everyone, like, It's making the market bigger. You are producing more demand for it. So please, if you are watching family vlogs, anything like that, please don't. That would be my recommendation. You may feel like, oh, but I'm cutting off their revenue. Should they be making revenue off exploiting people anyway? I don't know. I think there's other jobs out there is what I'm pointing out. All I know from all of this is the fact that psychologists will not go out of business. And I just feel sorry for the generations that are growing up being plastered on social media. You know how I pointed out at the start that it's a good practice to ask kids if they're okay with something? Keep that up. That would be one of my biggest things, helping them realize, do I actually want this? Do I actually want to have me being potty trained out on the internet forever? Do I want that? Maybe they can decide that when they're 25. I don't think they can decide that when they're 4. Anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. If you made it all the way to the end, put the baby emoji. I think it just makes sense. Thank you so much. I'm sorry that I got very impassioned about this. This really does bother me, and I apologize for the sound of my voice. There will be another video next week, and I'm also still working on the PFA video, but I need to consult with a lot of scientists about this, so I'm putting my feelers out there right now, and it will probably take me a little while to gather enough information and consensus. Granted, I'm not a scientist myself, so I'm putting it out there that I am working on that. Next week's video is going to be a lot lighter and fluffier because I just need it after these past few videos. So it's going to be a bit Disney focused, so subscribe if you haven't already. I'm looking forward to that one because I've already been thinking of it and it's a lot of fun. So thank you lovelies so much for watching, and I'll see you again next Tuesday, maybe on Sunday for a review video. Either way, put that bell on, give this video a like, comment down below. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye. Oh, I can't say that. I will see you on Tuesday. Bye. Also, good side of my face, bad side of my face. Oh, wow. Let's do the thumbnail this way, shall we? Also, how cute. Matchy matchy. We're trying to be happy. Like, oh. I need more tea.